road.
love the
Over under 10.5, bro.
Look, I'll be surprised if any of us say under. All right, so I'm going over. I think the Ravens are coming back with a vengeance this year. Jesse Minter, I think, is going to bolster that defense, revitalize that defense. I think they're going to play with an energy that they've lacked the last few years, even as they've been, pretty good defensively. We'll see. This might be Derrick Henry's last hurrah. You never know when a running back's going to fall off. He didn't look like it at all last year, but it's coming at some point. But I'm going to assume he's going to be good this year. I think Lamar, Nick, is going to be excellent. Declan Doyle, look, we assume he learned a lot of stuff under Ben Johnson, right? And so I'm sure he's looking at Lamar like, man, this guy can do all sorts of things. So I bet they come up with some creative stuff. I just think after last season, one of the benefits of that bad season last year is you come into the next year, I would think, with incredible motivation. So I without question, am taking the over on this.
I reserve the right, as we all do, to change this, but I particularly reserve the right to change it if Lamar, the contract situation drags on at all. But assuming Lamar gets the new deal that he wants, I am slamming the over on the Ravens. Paid Lamar is available Lamar. That is what we have seen throughout his history. And I think the new coach is a net positive, even though I also think John Harbaugh going to the Giants is a net positive for them. And I have an announcement, KW. Ooh. And I hate to do this, because usually if you doubt someone and you're wrong, the answer is just keep doubting them, because eventually you'll be right.
Yes.
Eventually it's coming.
Nick does that all the time.
I'm laying down my metaphorical sword on doubting Derrick Henry.
Smart.
He'll just probably be awesome forever.
Yes. Savvy
Bruce said the end could be nigh. I might be the Derrick Henry guy now. I mean, it sounds like the real estate's available. So I will take the over for the Baltimore Ravens.
That genuinely took me by surprise. I was fully anticipating him to pick the under. For me, the calculation is remarkably simple. Provided that Lamar Jackson is on the field and healthy, and provided that Zach Orr demonstrates he can elevate the performance of that defensive unit, the decision becomes a complete no-brainer. Here's the fundamental truth. When you possess a talent of Lamar Jackson's caliber, the surrounding pieces don't need to be flawless. You don't require a perfectly constructed roster in every facet. The primary, non-negotiable condition is simply that your defense isn't a glaring weakness, a severe liability that consistently undermines your efforts. I believe that's the core reality when we discuss these truly exceptional, once-in-a-generation quarterbacks. And this leads me to a broader point that I've been trying to articulate more clearly, not just for an audience, but to crystallize it in my own mind. We're constantly engaged in these debates about a quarterback's capacity to carry a franchise. The discourse always revolves around questions like, how much weight can this particular quarterback bear? How many Pro Bowl talents need to be surrounding him? Can he single-handedly drag a flawed roster to a championship? We see this narrative constantly, especially surrounding guys like Patrick Mahomes, where the popular story becomes that he's just carrying subpar teams to Super Bowl victories on his back alone, a notion that is demonstrably, obviously false. I think the reality is far more nuanced and, in a way, simpler. When you are a truly elite top-tier quarterback, the discussion isn't really about your magical ability to carry a terrible team to a title. That's a myth. The reality is this: if your team is simply good enough, if you have no catastrophic season-derailing flaws, we're talking about situations where your offensive line isn't an absolute turnstile, or your defense isn't a complete sieve that gets gashed for 30-plus points every single week. You know, those, oh my God, what can anyone possibly do about that kinds of problems. If your team can clear that relatively low bar of being merely good enough, then the outcome is almost predetermined. With a quarterback of that stature, you are not just a playoff contender. You are, by definition, going to be one of the premier teams in the NFL. You're going to win games consistently. You're going to be in the thick of the playoff hunt. It becomes almost inconceivable for you to win fewer than, say, 10 games, barring an absolutely disastrous situation up front, where the quarterback has no pocket to step into and no time to breathe, or a defense that is historically bad. The floor is just that high. This is precisely why you see that win, total set at 10.5. The entire conversation is framed around that pivot point. The question isn't, will they be good or bad? It's, will they win 11 games or will they win 10? It could obviously fluctuate a little higher or a little lower due to randomness, but that's the precise band where the expectation sits. For me, it's a foregone conclusion that they'll hit at least that 10-win mark. The real intrigue, the thing that makes it interesting, starts when you consider the factors that could push them above that floor. It hinges on whether they can take a tangible step forward in critical areas like the defensive front or the offensive line's consistency. This, to me, is the crucial element that often gets overlooked in the carry debate. It's less about the receiving core or the running game, especially when your quarterback is a dual-threat dynamo like Lamar. And in case you hadn't heard through the endless analysis Lamar Jackson does, on occasion, utilize his legs to gain yardage. That was sarcasm, by the way, for the algorithm. The point stands. With that skill set, the 10-win territory is the baseline. That's the floor. The deviation from that floor, whether you shoot up to 12-13 wins or, conversely, stumble down to an 8-win season, usually comes down to the aggregation of marginal, high-leverage disasters. It's when you start compressing all the possible negative variances into a single season. You know the drill. It's the devastating fumble at the goal line in a one-score game. It's your normally reliable kicker, missing a chip shot field goal and an extra point in a 3-point loss. It's a receiver who has a case of the drops in the end zone on what should have been 4 touchdown catches. Individually, every team experiences 1 or 2 of these moments a year. But sometimes, and this is where seasons can get skewed, they all get compacted into the same handful of games. You find yourself sitting there, bewildered, asking, what on earth is happening? How are we losing these games? You could point to a couple of instances with the Ravens last season involving a certain running back's fumbles. Derrick Henry putting the ball on the ground comes to mind. That's the kind of chaotic variable that's always lurking, ready to tilt a season's record in one direction or another. However, those fluctuations are different from a structural, systemic liability. When your defense is a major liability, a unit capable of surrendering 35 points on any given Sunday without warning, or when your offensive line is in complete shambles, then all bets are off. In those scenarios, the floor disappears. A great quarterback can overcome those issues in a single game, in a moment of individual brilliance. But asking him to overcome them week after week, to constantly play catch-up or operate under constant duress, is not a sustainable formula for success. It erodes the floor. Applying this framework to the current team, it's clear they are good enough. Even if the fan base has legitimate anxieties about a specific position group on the line or a particular player's consistency, the overall roster construction is solid. It lacks those catastrophic, glaring holes that sink a season before it starts. Therefore, the floor is unequivocally that of a highly competitive, top-tier franchise. Now, the subsequent question, can they win the Super Bowl, is an entirely different discussion. That's about the ceiling. That conversation involves a different set of variables: matchups, playoff experience, health at the right time, and a dose of good fortune. Right now, the focus is purely on the floor. And that's precisely what a season win total over-under is measuring. It's a barometer of the collective perception of that baseline. Are we projecting the floor to be below 10 wins or above it? That's the simple binary at the heart of the bet, E. Every top team finds itself clustered around that 10.5 mark for the same reason. They have the franchise quarterback. They are, by and large, good enough across the roster without any debilitating weaknesses. The coaching staff, while perhaps not perfect, is competent. And in this specific case, you have Lamar Jackson. If other organizations with demonstrably inferior quarterbacks and less stable franchises can grind their way to 8 or 9 wins through grit and coaching, then it's simple math. Lamar Jackson, in this environment, can absolutely get to 10 or 11. It becomes a straightforward, almost arithmetic conclusion. That's actually what makes these over-under lines so tricky and, honestly, so much fun. I enjoy them less as a definitive prediction and more as a launching pad for discussion. They serve as an excellent barometer of public and market perception. If this number were 9.5, it would signal a belief that Lamar might regress, or that there are serious questions about the coaching staff or roster that could drag the team down. A 10.5 line is the NFL world saying, "We view the Baltimore Ravens and Lamar Jackson as being on the same tier as every other elite team in the league." It's an acknowledgement that they're in the mix, sitting at the same table as the Chiefs, the Bills, and the Bengals. It's an admission that it's genuinely anyone's game from here. And so, the ultimate outcome reverts back to those fundamental, unpredictable elements. Can the defense take that next step under its new coordinator? Can the offensive line hold up against elite pass rushes in January? And when the pressure is at its peak, can the kicker consistently drill the game-winning field goal? You tell me. We'll have to wait and see how it all unfolds. But drop your thoughts in the comments. I make a point of reading every single one. Whether you're on my side of the argument or you think I've completely missed the mark, let's get a dialogue going. Let's get some spirited debates happening. But most importantly, let's have some fun with it. And please, if you're enjoying this, consider subscribing. We're in the process of cultivating an incredible community here, and I genuinely love seeing you be a part of it. My goal is to build something we all feel a genuine connection to, something we're all excited to be involved in. I truly believe we're well on our way to achieving that. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. It genuinely helps with visibility and navigating the algorithm. Thanks a ton.